a Royal typewriter. And so one typewriter, and justification was is that I liked the mechanics of it, but I really couldn't justify buying it because of that. But my wife got into journaling, and so I was like, all right, this is my end, So that's how I bought this typewriter based on, well, she likes to journal, she'll use it, and she just got into this thing, So anyway, that's how I got into it. Now we have north of 1,000 typewriters.
Oh my God.
Personally, yes. And we have, in the museum at the Phelps County Historic Society in Rolla, we have a little over 300 on display. And so they're from all over the world. They're in different languages, different typefaces. The mechanics are all different. That's why it's pretty interesting to see the innovation. And even in this room, you're going to see some things that are going to be pretty unique. Anyway, I was shadowing up in Jones Typewriter in St. Louis after I retired. I half joked with this gentleman that's 82 years old at the time, and I was like, hey, Byrne, when I retire, I'm going to come see you. And he's like, whatever, come on, And so anyway, I took him up on it. I called him up, and I said, hey, can I come up? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So he's like, I got a bench for you. So anyway, I started working and doing my thing with typewriters that I had to see what tricks he had available. And then next thing you know, I started to help him repair his typewriters that came in with customers. And what I noticed, and this is pretty interesting, St. Louis has a pretty good draw. I mean, being from Rolla, I'm not moving to St. Louis. Just saying. I moved from Virginia Beach and Hampton Roads. That's enough population as it was. And then I was like, I'm not going to move to downtown St. Louis for this thing. And but on average, he was getting 8 manual typewriters a day for repairs, and that's pretty good. And whether it was a ribbon, maybe a cleaning, maybe just something that a little minor tuning. And so I was like calculating all of that when I took it into consideration to purchase the business. And so that's what I did. We purchased the business, moved it to Rolla, and so that's how we are doing very well as far as inventory, as far as even our customers are all the way from Australia, Netherlands, even Great Britain. Wow. Canada, so it's been something. It's been a venture, and so we've been featured on NPR radio, NPR News, locals. We've done Salem Library. We've done Rolla Library. We've done some other events out there. Even the St. James event at their library for the founder of the St. James, the family for Ironworks. Anyway, so it's been pretty fascinating on this venture. We just finished up doing Washington University a couple weeks ago for a type-in. We had roughly, I'm going to approximate like 80 students come in, and so that was pretty cool. And then before that, we were at the Slice Festival in St. Louis, and that was next to the Fox Theater. And we had a little over 800 people to come in to type on typewriters, and they were in lines of like 4 deep, waiting to jump on a typewriter just to type something and get the experience, and then go from there. We had a few people drop off their typewriters, and we had that, had that opportunity to be able to service their typewriters and get them back up and operational a few weeks later. But also, Slices invited us back. They were like, "This is such a draw for us." So anyway.
Is that a restaurant or something?
No. It's actually like for authors.
Slices.
Slices for authors. It's also what do they call them? I'm not good at this. Graphic artists. Is that right? And also people that do poetry. I mean, there was all sorts different walks of life in there, as far as from artists to authors. So,
I guess they mean slices of life.
Maybe I don't know. All I know is I was invited, and we were like, okay, we'll coordinate and go, and they set up a workstation for us right there in the main entrance, right next to a print shop, and so They set up their little print shop next to us, so to demonstrate, and we had our typewriters out to demonstrate, and so
Cool.
yeah, it's very cool. But
Wow.
that's what I have. Any questions so far? All right. Well, out of typewriters, so the history of typewriters itself, there's over 940 companies, approximately, that developed and created a typewriter of some sort or fashion, which is incredible, right? So if you went to the museum that we have on display with the 300, we represent about 70 to 75 different manufactured typewriters from different companies. So like your big ones like Royal, Smith Corona, Olympia, and so on and so forth, right? We have those out there, and that's what we have for representation today. And as a matter of fact, for those that may remember Montgomery Ward's, there's a Montgomery Ward's here, and there's also a Sears, two Sears typewriters here, just to show how they even got into the market. And so the reason why, this thing has like gotten very popular as far as how the engineering went with the QWERTY keyboard layout. So the reason for the QWERTY keyboard came out in 1873 with a patent, and that was to prevent the clogging of the keys as you were typing your English words, because we're going to talk about English words primarily. That's how they came up with the QWERTY design, because that way the two type slugs wouldn't actually clog and get tangled up. Words like hydraulic, hydro, things like that, those get pretty close to where you could potentially, hit two at the same time.
Yeah, I remember sometimes the things would cross.
That's right. That's right. And so Olympia is one of those that created a key, a special key to where it would unclog by pushing a dejamming button essentially, and it would bring them back in return. Where, as you well know, you just reach up there and tap them and pull them back down, And so there's all unique designs in that sense. The other thing that we'll talk about is that there are different typefaces. I brought today an italic typewriter that types in italic, and I brought two script, and one is a vertical and one is just a regular script. And so you can kind of get an idea. And really into script is cursive. And so if you're really into that kind of stuff, it's like, especially if you were into poetry or wanting to make your own notes or something, some of it's pretty elegant, right? I mean, better than my handwriting, and you can at least see it, And so, anyway, that's what I have as far as the QWERTY goes. Now, if you went to France, France has an Azerty keyboard. The top, instead of it being QWERTY, it would be Azerty across there. So an A-Z-E-R-T-Y. And so, and if it was in German, where the QWERTY is, it would be quartz with a Z instead, and the Z and the Y would be replaced. And so, a little fascinating stuff. From what you see, and then you get into other ones, and they just get crazy. Spanish has a dead key for their types of accent keys, is what they're called. And I have a Korean typewriter that came in that has 16 dead keys, and I swear to you, I thought it was broken because it had 16 dead keys out of the 84, and I'm like going, wait a second. What's going on here? Like, is this defunct? And then I got a hold of a lady who was from Korea. She looked at it and she goes, no, this is perfect. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. And I was like, thank God somebody here understands Korean, because I don't know, and I even had flagged them, because I do repair typewriters as well. Every one of these have been worked on and touched by me to be operational, to be clean, to be used again, right? And these things are going to live a long time. While here in the museum, before this thing started, Lori allowed me to go walk around, and I found what they nicknamed a Oliver typewriter, which is a batwing typewriter. And that was considered your first visible typewriter. And that typewriter is a number 5. It's upstairs. And it's approximately between 1895 and 1905 typewriter. And so that's the oldest one that you have here on hand. And it is in fact, the first visible typewriter design where you could actually see what you typed. They were manufactured out of Chicago, Illinois. They were sent all throughout the world. The odd numbers were left in the States, even numbers were sent overseas, and they even had different foreign languages for those overseas. And so that's where you get the Oliver typewriter. And the Oliver is the same green as the Oliver tractor, but they are not the same. It's not the same company. So yeah, there's that. Remington is the first company. Remington, for those who may not know, Remington produced and manufactured firearms. Well, they also got into the typewriter business with Scholes and Glidden, with that 1873 patent, and they were the first ones to mass produce what they call an upstrike typewriter, or a blind writer is nicknamed, but you wouldn't really know that you had any errors in your typing until you got to like 10 lines in. And so, and this is where my next segue is leave it to women to work things out. So, when we went from manual typewriters into electric, all right, before the electronic, we'll leave that off to the side for now. But what happened, you guys remember the group, the Monkeys, right? Well, Mickey, his mom was a secretary, and she was, always working on a manual typewriter. When the electric came out, they became very snappy and very touchy, right? And so she kept making all these mistakes. She went home and developed whiteout. And so
I did not know that.
And so that money that she produced in the patent funded all of their tours after the television show. Wow. And so there's some history there for you on that side, and you get into that kind of stuff. So anytime you see whiteout, even today, that still belongs in that family.
Right.
So it's pretty cool.
That story.
But yeah, like I said, leave it to the woman to figure it out, because that's how it's going to work. And I'll say this. Women were known to be really good at multitasking. So when the War Department was stood up during World War II, they mobilized like all the shorthand writers they could find across the country. And then everyone had the stenograph machine, right? So the stenograph went in for the shorthand, and then, the words per minute were up to 300 words, right, on a shorthand. But as a typewriter came into the War Department, they would swap out one for one. And then the machine, right, the writer machine, the typewriter was actually the woman's title. And so, but after World War II, the name of the machine transitioned to typewriter. So just to let you all know where that history comes from, the typewriter. So anyway, that's what I have for little tidbits right now.
That's not the one I can remember, that ball that went across.
Okay, so that's the IBM.
Yeah.
Now, all right, so you brought up a good, I like this. So if you come to the museum, I can show you how this transitions. So Blickensderfer is the name of a company. They were out of Connecticut. They came up with this ball first, and it wasn't necessarily a ball, though. It was a cylinder, and they called it an element. And this cylinder, when it typed, it could do the tilt and rotate. Okay, and so and this was called a scientific keyboard layout. This is when they were fighting whether it was going to be a QWERTY or it was going to be Dvorak keyboard layout, or the scientific, which is the 85, 10, and 5% of the English language letters that are being used in the alphabet. How that was going to be laid out on a keyboard. And so at the time, this Blickensderfer did very well up to roughly the 20s, and then they sold the company to Remington. Remington then changed the name from Blickensderfer to Remblick, and then they did a couple years worth. World War II kicked off. They stopped making these typewriters, and so the patent just sat idle. Well, IBM came around, and they were like, "Hey, Remington, we'd like to buy that patent," and they were like, Remington's basically like, okay. Well, the thing is that we don't want you to compete with us for another typewriter. And they were like, yeah, no problem. And that's how they came up with the element for the IBM, because the tilt rotate. That's how they got very competitive and sold millions of those units of the Selectrix 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
Yeah. And then, that really launched that company. And so, yeah. So
So
kind of
you
cool.
repair and do you sell?
I do. Like
Okay.
all these are for sale, but they're.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, but we do repair. I was just telling Lori that I got commissioned to work on a typewriter for a publishing state museum in Oklahoma, and the lieutenant governor actually came in to see the typewriter because it's a rare one. It's the only one that's functioning in the country,
Wow.
and so they're trying to get funding available. And I was fortunate enough to be selected to work and repair that typewriter for that particular machine. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, but yeah, we've like I said, we've worked on all sorts of typewriters though. Some of them have wooden keys. You would think that there's still parts not available, but really they're barn finds is what I call them when you do find them. But yeah.
Tell them about the one that you have at your shop that actually types music.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I have a music typewriter. And the unique thing about this music typewriter, and it's technically no longer a typewriter, it's a music writer. But what happened was it was manufactured as a typewriter in Western Germany, sent to Mexico to be retooled as a music writer. And then what that means is they use the platform of a typewriter, and it actually types music notes, and they're essentially like 6 characters per inch. So it's not, it's typing up to big characters depending on, and you can actually line type your music out on this typewriter. Roughly 5,000 were made, and we have one. And so pretty interesting. Yeah. Yeah, the last time the ribbon was manufactured was 1971 by IBM of all companies, and you can't get it. It's like one of those things it's like hen's teeth. So, yeah. And it's a single use. It doesn't go back and forth like the regular ribbons. It's a single use carbon ribbon, so it's a very crisp. That's why they chose it. It's a very crisp character when it hits the paper, and it's really nice. Very
so
clean.
if you have one of these and the ribbon runs out.
Well, I mean, I know a guy that can repair it and convert it to another ribbon, but I'd like to keep it original.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got people out there right now sourcing, and I have half a spool left. And so it's like I have it's on display, and it shows what it can type, and what like
Nobody
the ribbon.
will.
No one's going to touch that thing. So yeah.
Huh.
But, yeah. Any other questions? All right.
It's overwhelming.
Oh, okay. All right. Sounds very
That's
interesting.
interesting, yeah.
I can really talk